the Hamas leader, now deceased, killed, from Gaza. And Dr. Rantisi, I'd known Dr. Rantisi for a few years, and I liked him. I thought he was a very intelligent man. I had not fooled myself as to his politics. He could be rough. And I greeted him, and Arafat's aides greeted him rather coolly. And then he was supposed to have an appointment to see Mr. Arafat, and Mr. Arafat kept him waiting. Mr. Arafat would tell me years later, "Your friend, Dr. Rantisi." I'd say, well, he kept him waiting, and Rantisi was pacing back and forth, very upset. Finally, he let him in the room. Mr. Arafat was seated behind his big desk and sat there and looked at him, and Rantisi launched into a diatribe that would have burned your ears off. "You are a traitor. You have betrayed the Palestinian people. You've actually sat down and talked to our occupier. People who kill our people. You're no better than an Israeli." You could hear it. You could hear him screaming in Arabic. I had somebody translating for me. Oh. And after about 10 minutes of this diatribe, Rantisi fell silent, and Arafat looked at him and said, "What do you want?" And Rantisi looked at him and said, 40 seats in the Palestinian legislature. Hamas is an organization that does understand its constituency and argues about its constituencies. The argument between the Gaza leadership of Hamas and the Damascus leadership of Hamas is one about constituents, where the Prime Minister of Palestine, the elected Prime Minister of Palestine, says to the leader of Hamas in Damascus, "There are people lined up outside my door. We have got to do something." And the leader of Hamas in Damascus will respond, "There are people lined up outside my door too. They're called refugees. Yes, we have to do something. But you're not the only one with a constituency." It's a constituency-driven organization. When Hamas won the elections that they stood for, there was a mayor north of Ramallah who was a Hamas functionary, became the mayor, went on the ticket as a member of Hamas, was elected from a largely Fatah-based village. There's a community center in this village. In that community, everyone went to the community center. And so he became mayor, this Hamas guy. He put up, his first job as mayor is he put up a list of new rules. Women cannot wear short sleeves in the community center. Women have to do this in the community center. Women can't talk too loudly in the community center. He got a call from the Hamas chief in Ramallah who said, "Are you out of your mind? Take it down." He said, "Well, you know, we have to have social order." He said, "You want to eat? You were elected. You think that your constituents want this?" Now, I don't call that a gang. I call that politics. And that's what I think Hamas is about. Now, what we've done is strangle that democracy in its crib. And it's turning into a problem for us. But Israel knows where the address is for peace. And it's not, I'm sorry to say, it's not my good friends in the Muqata in Ramallah. The address for peace, or at least accommodation, is Hamas. Now, for Hezbollah, they're not, I wouldn't claim that they're as fundamentalist as the American government would have them be, or puppets of Iran. However, I was in a meeting with the number 3 guy in Hezbollah. He's a very good friend, Nawaf Moussaoui. He's head of external relations. I think he's the number 3 guy. It's hard to, it's a difficult organization to understand. I had known him for several years. I couldn't believe he asked me this question. He said, "So Mark, you're a Jew?" I said, "Not yet." He kind of smiled. He went, "Well, you're not a Muslim." I said, "No." And he said, "You must be a Christian." And I hesitated, and my colleague whispered to me, "Now's not the time to debate the existence of God." I said, "Yes." I'm not arguing that just being a political organization, they don't care about God. I wouldn't make that claim about the Republican Party. They do. Many of them are very devout. But they're really politically motivated, and Hezbollah among everyone. Nawaf Musawi sat for 1 hour with a group of people, former CIA and diplomats, came to visit him in Beirut, and he went through district by district, the vote counts, and who was running on what list for the Lebanese parliament. He knew it. He knew it by heart. And where the alliances Hezbollah were making with the Christians in certain districts to get Christian candidates elected to the parliament, he had it down. A constituency-driven organization. Do I have 2 minutes? 3? 5?
You have
3 minutes. The question's going to come. What do we do? I think things are going to change, because the one thing that makes America wake up and pay attention is failure, and we failed in the Middle East. There is in this government now, even in this government, a sense that we got this wrong. I'm not pessimistic about the future. I'm not. I think important people understand that we have to straighten out our relationship with Israel, that it is not appropriate for an Israeli national security advisor to call one of our national security advisors over the head of the Secretary of State or the ambassador to Egypt and change policy. I think people got it, and I think that that's going to change. I think the second thing that's going to change is there will be a drive for a solution to the Arab-Israeli conflict, and specifically for a drive for an end to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and I oppose that initiative. And I'll tell you why. Because the Palestinians aren't ready. They are not ready. In order for the Palestinians to credibly negotiate with Israel, not through the United States, but to face them across the table, the Palestinian community needs to be united, and it's not. The first step in an Israeli-Palestinian peace process, which means no solution, but a Palestinian-Israeli solution, is to unite the Palestinian people. And that means that Fatah and Hamas have to talk. And they have to start talking now, and they have to go to the table united. And secondly, that's second. And thirdly, I would think that once that happens, the Palestinians ought to say something to the Israelis that they haven't said in a long time. We're not going to negotiate. You know what the solution to this conflict is. We have UN resolutions. If you have something important to say, forget about going to Copenhagen for a reconciliation conference or coming to the United States to drink tea with the President of the United States. Forget all this about understanding. You're our enemies. When you have something important to say, slip it under the door. We'll be ready. And finally, my final anecdote is I often go to Israel to talk about these things with officials in the Israeli government. I'll talk to anybody. And I always hear, the Palestinians never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. There you go. That's the thing that when I hear that sentence, it just sends shards of glass. And finally I figured out a response. The last time somebody said that to me was an aide to Olmert. He said, "Oh, Mark, Palestinians never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity." And I said, how many Palestinians are there in the world? He looked at me and said, 15 million? I said, yeah, 15, 16 million. He said, so? And I said, and for 15 years, 15 million Palestinians have paralyzed American foreign policy. Not bad. Not bad. You think the next administration is going to enter office with a paralyzed foreign policy in the United States and put up with it after 7 years of this crap? There's no way. And that holds true whether it's Obama or McCain. And that's why my outlook is optimistic, and I thank you.